A Grant High School teacher's trivialization of rape culture has generated outrage and opened up a dialogue on sexual harassment. KBOO's Ricky King has this report.
A paper issued to freshmen at Grant High School last Tuesday has sparked a controversy within and outside of the school. The paper is history teacher David Lickey's critique of the concept of rape culture. He reportedly distributed the essay after interrupting another class's discussion of the topic. He wrote that rape crimes are not the result of a culture that is accepting of rape and are solely the actions of a few individuals. The document goes on to express that, quote, "the very wording of rape culture to me seems a bit hysterical," end quote. He also writes that neither he nor any of the men in his life believe women are objects of exploitation. In his opinion, putting sexual assault in the context of culture is harmful and, quote, proposes a culture war between all men and all women, end quote. In response, Grant students wore red on Monday to show solidarity with people who have experienced sexual violence. Grant principal Carol Campbell sent a message to families explaining that Lickey's paper does not represent how the school teaches on the subject. She apologized for any harm and said the school would work to make space for discussion around the issue. A video response from former Grant student Madison Moskowitz has been viewed 14,000 times on Facebook. I got the chance to speak with her. I was wondering what your initial response was after seeing Mr. Lickey's letter sent out last week.
My initial response was honestly, I didn't think that he was really serious. I thought perhaps he was attempting to play the devil's advocate for good reason, I think. But then, after I read the whole thing, I understood that he was serious, and after that, I guess I would say disappointed.
He asserts in his paper that while rape and sexual assault do occur in our culture, that they aren't consistent with our values and that they're more of an exception. I was wondering what you made of that.
I understand his perspective. It misunderstands the argument that I make and that many others have made, which is that the term rape culture doesn't mean we live in a society where everyone rapes or, something ridiculous like that. It's saying that sexual violence isn't taken seriously enough. And I think by assuming that only the violent act of rape is what makes up rape culture is a misunderstanding. It starts with jokes and sexist attitudes, unequal pay, locker room talk, and it escalates into things like catcalling and sexual harassment in the workplace, then to violent crimes. It's not a rare experience among women and some men. It's not some huge secret, and it shouldn't be the elephant in the room.
Did you happen to see him reading the video on the Oregonian of another former student?
Yeah, I did.
What did you think of that?
I'm really glad that instead of instantly jumping to being defensive, which many people do when they're told that they're wrong, instead he did it the hard way, and he said, you know what, I was wrong. I apologize, and I'm learning and striving to do better. And I think that is the best case scenario for anyone, and I wish that was a more common response.
What ways do you think we can, as a whole, open up dialogue around these kinds of crimes?
I think that combating sexist attitudes and microaggressions, sexist jokes, and kind of outdated gender roles are things that everyone can do every day. Saying, hey, that's actually not okay with me when you say that. And speaking up when you feel uncomfortable with something is huge to change this culture of acceptance. And when people, hear that and hear that more and more people are starting to care even about the small stuff, that's what can lead to a sea change and sort of trickle up, I guess, to, a reduction in the incidence of sexual violence. So I think that it's really easy to start small and listen to survivors. Check out a book from the library, written by a survivor or written by someone with a really strong academic knowledge about sexual violence and learn more. Because I genuinely don't think there are very many people who want to act maliciously around this subject. I think most people are just uneducated. Luckily, that is an easy fix in the time of the internet.
That's true. More information, more than ever, is being widely available. What would you want Mr. Lickey to know?
I'm grateful that he took the time to listen to everyone who reached out to him and respond in a respectful way. So I guess I would say thank you for that. I would tell him, what I've been telling everyone. just to listen more, because this isn't something rare. It's not something obscure. It's something that, in my experience, every woman that I've talked to about this has said, I feel the same way. I've experienced something like this. I can identify with your experience. I would just say to him what I say to everyone is just keep listening and seeking out perspectives different from yours.
That's great advice. Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to say to the listeners tonight?
I would just say there are a lot of people out there who have a continued skepticism about the existence of what has been called rape culture. But I think it's really important to understand that it's a widely accepted fact academically that 1 in 5 women in their lifetime will be a victim of sexual violence. I'm one of those victims, and far too many of my dear friends and family are as well. And I think that I would say to people still skeptical about this to listen to the women in their lives, open their ears to learning more about this, because it's serious. It affects so many women and really people of all identities. And as long as that statistic is 1 in 5, this is going to be a huge problem. So I hope that if you listen to this segment with some degree of skepticism, that you take a moment to do some research, either personally or academically, because I think the more you learn about this and the more you hear from survivors, the better you'll understand just how impactful this is to me and to other people.
Thank you so much for speaking with us tonight, Madison.
Yeah, thank you for getting in touch.
Yesterday, in a video from the Oregonian, David Lickey read an email he received from a former student who experienced sexual harassment at the school. She wrote that rape culture includes, but is not limited to, day-to-day comments and violations that can go overlooked. For example, she had her hair pulled as other students leered at her. After reading her story aloud, Lickey said that, quote, I wasn't asking her, she didn't share it, I didn't see it, I wasn't curious about it, end quote, and that he felt awful that he did nothing to protect her. This has been Ricky King with KBOO News.